AI dictatorships, out-of-control deepfakes, mass animal extinction. These are the top 10 terrifying predictions for 2025. We pray don't come true. Imagine a world where a machine, not a human, makes all the most important decisions. Well, according to folks like Elon Musk and a whole swath of AI researchers, we might not be too far away from that becoming a reality. Musk has been warning for years about the dangers of unregulated AI, calling it one of the biggest threats to humanity. The fear is that as AI becomes more advanced, it could end up running entire countries, controlling military systems and making life or death decisions with little to no human oversight. Some researchers predict that AI could surpass human intelligence by 2025. Some say it already has, and that makes it hard, if not impossible, for us to control it. This could lead to something terrifying: AI dictatorships. Here, we'll have AI running governments, dictating laws, controlling entire societies. Imagine a machine that monitors your every move, decides what jobs you can do, what healthcare you can receive, or how you should live your life in general. I don't think anyone is saying this is going to come to fruition in 2025, but that it's on the verge of happening. With AI evolving at such a fast speed, there's a real fear that we're losing control of something that was originally, supposedly, meant to serve us. The animals of the planet may be in serious trouble, and some experts are predicting that we could be facing a mass extinction event by 2025. According to a number of scientists, species are disappearing at an alarming rate, faster than they ever have in human history. The World Wildlife Fund, I'm still bitter that they changed that WWE. Ugh. Anyway, they warn that we are in the 6th mass extinction, with more than 1 million species at risk of vanishing within the next couple decades. It's not just big animals dying out, but smaller creatures like insects too, and without them, the entire food chain just collapses. Deforestation, pollution, as we destroy habitats and pollute the water, species are either dying off or being forced to adapt at a pace they can't keep up with. The loss of pollinators like bees, for example, could have huge consequences for the planet. Imagine a world where deepfakes, hyper-realistic AI-generated videos, are used not to just make funny memes online, but to trick people into believing false news. It really doesn't take a genius to see how dangerous deepfaking can get, especially with how fast the technology is advancing. In the next few years, deepfake technology could be weaponized in ways that could create chaos on a massive scale. Deepfakes can already make it look like anyone is saying anything, and now there's a very real concern that this tech could be used to fake emergency broadcasts or health warnings even. What makes this terrifying is how easy it would be to panic the public, have people canceled that don't deserve to be. People could be attacked in the street for doing something they never actually did. Governments and tech companies are trying to develop tools to detect deepfakes, but the tech is just advancing so fast that we're just on a constant game of catch-up. Drones aren't just for taking pictures or delivering packages. By 2025, drone warfare could be a major part of global conflict. Military drones are already used for surveillance and airstrikes, but they're getting smarter and more deadly every year. What's really terrifying is the possibility of drones being used in autonomous combat, where, like I mentioned earlier, they could make life or death decisions on their own without any human influence. AI-powered drones operating in swarms, communicating with each other and coordinating attacks could change the way wars are fought. Even smaller groups or rogue states could get their hands on drone technology and use it to target military bases or even civilian populations. With each passing year, drones are getting closer and closer to being used on a more massive scale, leading to a kind of warfare that's faster, more unpredictable, and even harder to control, but most importantly, easier to carry out. I mean, killing is easy if you're doing it from the comfort of a chair far away from harm. Synthetic biology is becoming more of a reality every day as well. If you've never heard of George Church, he's a geneticist who's been working on this technology. His work focuses on genome editing, basically editing DNA to create either like new life forms or enhance the abilities of living things like you and me. It's really pushing the boundaries of what it means to be human. Scientists are already working on designer babies, editing genes to remove and inherited diseases and enhancing things like strength, intelligence, or memory. Some predict that by 2025, there could be widespread genetic modification where human beings could literally choose the traits they want in their offspring or enhance their own bodies with biohacking techniques, at least within the next few years. Imagine people enhancing themselves with cybernetic limbs, enhanced vision, or AI-powered brain implants that could make us more than human, but also less human at the same time. It could be pretty cool, and there are definitely benefits to this type of thing, but it could also easily get out of hand. Will we still be human in the next few decades, or will it be something else entirely, and will we be ready to deal with it? How would you feel if every movie you made was being watched? Whether you're walking down the streets, logging into your computer, or even chatting with your friends. Some say this is already happening. I mean, your phone is pretty much listening to you all the time. Surveillance technology is only going to get more advanced as 2025 progresses. Are we going to be stuck in a global surveillance hell world by the end of next year? I mean, maybe not, but we're getting closer all the time. And it's not just government agencies keeping an eye on things either. With advancements in facial recognition, AI monitoring, smart devices, it's becoming easier for corporations to track people wherever they go. Reality is that cameras are already everywhere, and surveillance technology is getting more advanced by the day. Smart cities could be a huge part of this, where everything from traffic lights to street signs are connected to this system that can track every citizen's movement, gaining info on your habits, your preferences, maybe even your mood one day. We could see predictive surveillance as well, where AI analyzes data to anticipate what people might do before they even do it. Check out the anime Psychopaths if you're at all interested in that idea. The idea of the world's economy crashing might sound extreme, but by 2025 it could be closer to reality than we think. Right now, the global financial system is already under a lot of pressure. Countries are dealing with huge debt, rising costs, inflation. A lot of them are still trying to bounce back from economic crises like the one in 2020. The possibility of a worldwide economic collapse is becoming more likely. Some economists are saying that in the next few years, the way the world handles money could just totally break down. If countries can't get their finances under control, we could see hyperinflation where prices skyrocket and money loses its value. This could lead to massive job losses and millions of people being unable to afford even the basics, and this would set off a chain reaction, unrest, chaos for people all over the world. In 2025, we could see cyber terrorism becoming even more prevalent than it already is. Hackers, either working on their own or employed by their own country, could launch attacks on power grids, water systems, healthcare systems, throwing entire cities into chaos. What's scarier is that these cyber attacks could be almost impossible to trace. A single cyber attack could seriously mess things up for a whole country. It could shut down communication systems, crash the economy, but it's not just governments that are in danger. Businesses, hospitals, even regular people like you and me could be targeted. Imagine you wake up to find your bank account locked and your devices are all hacked. Not that that doesn't already happen now, but with the rise of AI and machine learning, cyber criminals are getting better at these attacks every day. They can move faster, think smarter, and make it harder for us to stop them. Within the next few years, climate change could force millions of people to leave their homes in search of safer ground. Rising sea levels, extreme natural disasters, failed crops, it'll all make some areas basically unlivable, creating what many experts are calling the first wave of climate refugees. These are people who have no choice but to leave their homes because the land they live on just isn't sustainable anymore. The most affected areas will likely be low-lying coastal regions and areas experiencing extreme droughts or flooding. People will migrate in search of water, food, basic resources, and just so that they can live in a place where they are constantly having to worry about being swept away in a monster tsunami. As more people are displaced, we could see global migration reach levels never seen before. This could cause political chaos, with governments struggling to take care of their own population, but also dealing with the needs of refugees. And that kind of leads into the next point, water. We all need it, but what if there's not enough to go around? According to a United Nations report, by 2025, almost 2/3 of the world's population could face severe water shortages. That means billions of people could be without access to clean drinking water. It's not just a third world problem. Countries like India, China, even the US could be facing this. Why is this happening? Well, climate change is making water sources less predictable. The pollution is contaminating rivers and lakes. On top of that, the world's growing population and overconsumption are putting a huge pressure on water supplies. In some regions, like the Middle East and parts of Africa, people already live in what's known as water scarcity, meaning they don't have enough water to meet their daily needs. As fresh water becomes more scarce, countries could start fighting over it, just like how we fight over oil. Tensions over water rights are already on the rise, and some are warning that if something isn't done soon, we could see more water wars, and that's a global crisis we don't want to face. In the Simpsons episode Margian Chronicles, season 27, episode 16, the Simpsons volunteer for a mission to colonize Mars. Initially set for a distant future, their mission gets bumped up when funding starts to dry up. But when it's time to launch, Marge and Lisa are ready to board the spaceship, only for the shuttle to fail at the last minute. Now, I know what you're thinking, the Simpsons predicting Mars missions, that's a bit of a stretch, but in reality, we've been hearing a lot of talk about Mars recently. Elon Musk has been talking about colonizing Mars for years. In fact, his company SpaceX has been testing Starship launches for potential Mars missions. Musk has even said that he envisions regular trips to Mars to eventually build a self-sustaining colony, saying, quote, "No matter what happens with landing success, SpaceX will increase the number of spaceships traveling to Mars exponentially with every transit opportunity. We want to enable anyone who wants to be a space traveler to go to Mars. That means you, your family, your friends, anyone who dreams of great adventure." NASA is also working on sending astronauts to an asteroid in 2025 and are hoping to send crewed missions to the Red Planet by the 2030s. The idea that we could be looking at Mars colonization within the next few decades is looking pretty plausible. Let's just hope things won't play out like they did in the cartoon with the shuttle exploding, but the fact that we are seriously talking about sending humans to Mars in the near future is something that really can't be ignored. Now, in the classic Simpsons episode Itchy and Scratchy Land from season 6, the Simpsons visit a high-tech theme park where the violent cartoon antics of Itchy and Scratchy come to life. Not through human actors and costumes, but through robots. Now, this isn't exactly a groundbreaking idea, right? Sci-fi has been toying with the concept of robots replacing jobs pretty much since the beginning of sci-fi, but all the same, looking at it today, we're seeing robots become more and more advanced every year. And with AI becoming a massive force in our world, it's not that far-fetched to imagine a future where instead of actors in cartoon character costumes, we have full-on functioning robots bringing some of our favorite animated characters to life at theme parks. In the Simpsons episode Bart to the Future, which we'll be bringing up multiple times on this list, which is season 11, episode 17, in case you want to give it a rewatch, Lisa Simpson becomes the first female president of the United States, but what else did that episode predict? Well, it also forecasted Donald Trump's presidential run. Remember, this was years before he even ran for office in 2016, so if the Simpsons got that right, maybe we should start taking their political predictions a bit more seriously. Also, buying a Christmas tree during the Halloween season. In this opening scene, Homer, dressed as Bender from Futurama, pulls back the flap of his costume to reveal a sticker reading Ivanka 2028. Now, the idea of Ivanka Trump running for president might seem kinda silly, but I feel like I'm probably speaking for a lot of us when I say I really don't know what to expect from the world I'm living in these days. I don't think anything would surprise us at this point. Will she run in 2028? Only time will tell, but we wouldn't be shocked if we start hearing whispers about it in the very near future. Now let's talk about something that might be a little closer to home, pun intended. In the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episode from season 13, Marge upgrades the family home into a state-of-the-art smart house called the Ultra House 3000. If you remember the episode, it's basically a 2001 A Space Odyssey parody, and of course the house goes rogue, starts trying to kill Homer. A bit over the top, sure, but here's the thing. Smart homes are already here, and they're getting way more advanced. We've got devices like Alexa and Google Home that can control everything from the lights to your music, but the more people rely on these gadgets, the more we've started to notice some weird quirks. Lights turning off without command, or Alexa butting in on a conversation without being asked. It's like every now and again these machines start to act a little too sentient. So while we haven't yet seen a smart home completely turn on its owners and try to kill them, it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility maybe. With AI getting smarter and tech getting more embedded in our everyday lives, who knows, maybe one day you'll have to make sure your smart fridge isn't secretly plotting your demise. Next up, let's talk about mind control through music. In season 12, episode 14, New Kids on the Block, Bart, Nelson, Milhouse, and Ralph form a boy band called Party Posse. Their first song is a massive hit, but their song is actually being used for subliminal mind control. In the music video for their song Drop the Bomb, part of the chorus goes, Yvan ik nioj, the lyrics of which are spelled out on screen, while Lisa discovers that when spelled out backwards, the line becomes join the Navy. In the episode, the music producer behind the boy bands is revealed to be a Navy lieutenant, using music as a covert tool for recruitment. While the plot itself is clearly ridiculous, it does touch on something that's not as far-fetched as it sounds, the idea of subliminal messages in media. Now, this is of course nothing new, but in a world where we're more consumed by media than ever before, who's to say we won't see more subtle psychological tactics used in pop music, social media, movies, and the countless shows we stream online. I think the most ridiculous and hard to believe part about this episode is actually Nelson being in a boy band, and that's saying a lot. The Simpsons also have an AI robot takeover in an episode. In the episode Them Robot from season 23, Mr. Smithers calls all the workers into a meeting. And what's the big announcement? Well, Smithers proudly reveals an army of AI robots, telling the employees, you will train them and they will replace you. Creepy, silly and fun though, because it's The Simpsons and the robots are fittingly voiced by Brent Spiner, who played Data in Star Trek, but also this is just a little too real. According to a 2023 report from Business Insider, the World Economic Forum estimates that 85 million jobs will be replaced by robots by 2025. This whole AI takeover thing isn't just some wild idea, it's already starting to happen. And while robots might make certain jobs easier or more efficient, the flip side is that millions of people might lose their jobs as a result. Next, let's talk about something a little more uplifting, literally, hover cars. The Simpsons wasn't the first to dream up flying cars. I mean, science fiction has been teasing them for decades, but what's really cool is there's actually a company called Samson Sky working on bringing this dream to life. They've developed a flying car called the Switchblade, which, to be honest, is more like a car with retractable wings rather than a full-on hover vehicle. But still, it's pretty cool. The company claims it's the world's first flying sports car, and while it might not be the classic hovering car we've all imagined, I think it still counts. At least it's creeping towards it. The Simpsons also predicted Trump's 2024 run. This one also ties into the Barbie movie release, but we'll get to that in a minute. So back in 2015, there was a Simpsons short called Trumptastic Voyage. In a scene where Homer flies by a billboard, we see a sign that reads Trump 2024. At the time, it was a totally out there prediction, right? Well, we all know Trump ran in 2024 and won, but that's not the only eerily accurate prediction from The Simpsons when it comes to Trump. Fast forward to 2023, when the Barbie movie hit theaters, and on the same exact day, Trump was arrested. Coincidence? Maybe, but if you watch the episode Lisa vs. Malibu Stacy from season 5, episode 14, you'll catch a news report mentioning the release of a new Malibu Stacy doll. Toward the end of the segment, the anchor casually adds that the US president has been arrested. In 2023, that moment felt way too familiar. The fact that The Simpsons nailed both Trump's political comeback and the exact timing of the Barbie movie's release and the rest stuff, I don't know, it's just, it's really weird. Economic collapse. Now that's fun to think about. Well, again, in Bart to the Future, the United States economy crashes. And in the episode, it's supposedly directly tied to Donald Trump's presidency. While the idea of an economic crash under Trump seemed like a far out prediction at the time, the reality we're facing today is far from rosy. I mean, just in general, the world's economy is struggling after the global disruptions of 2020 and beyond, lockdowns, the rise of remote work, supply chain chaos. It's just no surprise that things haven't exactly bounced back. Sure, we're not talking about a full-on economic meltdown just yet, but the signs of something major and destructive are definitely there. Here's something that's already here though, NFTs. In the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episode Wild Bart's Can't Be Token from 2023, Mayor Quimby announces that the town's art museum is being closed down because all art is now going to be sold as NFTs. Now at the time, NFTs were already a thing, but they were nowhere near as huge as they became a few years later. NFT art was exploding a couple years back, but it hasn't gone away. And sure, this episode premise was a little ridiculous. Art museums shutting down for NFTs might seem a little out there, but look around and you'll see it's not actually that far off. We've got virtual art galleries popping up, VR headsets for experiencing art, and AI-generated artwork that's been pushing the boundaries of what's considered real art. The point is, a lot of folks have plenty of things to entertain themselves with from the comfort of their own home now, barely ever feeling the need to go out and engage with the world, let alone going to an art gallery. So museums and art galleries shutting down is really not that far-fetched. And we're starting off our list with a traveler who has some pretty bad news for animal lovers out there. John, a self-proclaimed time traveler, claims to have actually come from the year 4000 and traveled back in time with some interesting details about the future. Apparently, in the year 4000, technology will have advanced to such an extent that artificial intelligence dominates most of the world. He describes a world where AI merges with daily human activity, leading to a new era where biological and artificial entities coexist almost seamlessly. Seems like this is going to happen way sooner than the year 4000 though. One of the more specific claims John makes is about the way corporations will evolve in the future. He states that all companies will be owned by a single mega corporation that uses AI to manage its operations. This corporation supposedly designs, builds, and controls robots that perform nearly all types of jobs, pushing humans out of the workforce. According to John, the result is a society where human labor is no longer necessary and robots handle most tasks. John also notes that these advancements in AI and robotics lead to changes in the environment and the social structure of society. He also states that pets like cats and dogs won't be a thing anymore, and that all birds were destroyed in order to prevent them from colliding with flying cars. Aren't there a lot more things we could collide with, like driving normal cars, than like up in the sky? Why don't we destroy everything in our path, already? I don't know. That's an odd one. Next up, we have a man named William Taylor who has some pretty wild things to say about the future, and interesting side note, he also passed a lie detector test, apparently. Now, I know lie detector tests aren't always foolproof, but not many people who claim to have traveled to the future have gone through any kind of test like that. So if that is true about the test, I don't know, that's kind of interesting. In 2018, a man named William Taylor claimed to have been part of a British intelligence project in which he traveled all the way to the year 8973. And he said that things were, or will be, actually pretty good in the distant future, so good in fact that he didn't even want to leave and come back to this time. Now, the only thing is that humans won't exist anymore, not the way we do currently anyway. Instead, a species of human-robot hybrids will populate the Earth, but no disease or crime will plague it, and these beings experience eternal life. Taylor also revealed some other intriguing information, like how time travel has actually been used by world governments since 1981. The technology was apparently reverse engineered from alien spacecrafts. A TikTok channel called Real TikTok Time Traveler started posting some pretty outlandish videos in 2022, mainly because this anonymous user claimed to be a time traveler. Is a channel the correct term when it comes to TikTok, by the way? Page? Like, do you say just like user? I'm very out of touch. I don't know where I am. Help me. But they've posted tons of videos making all kinds of claims about what the future holds. Most of it pretty dark, because that's what people just love gobbling up. They claim to be from the year 2236 and mostly post about events that will be playing out over the next 10 years. Some of their standouts include, in 2025, scientists discovering signs of life on 2 different planets that are proven to be more advanced than humans, and a meteor coming down to Earth in 2034 that will wipe out half of America. So look forward to that. Alaric goes by the handle Radiant Time Traveler on TikTok and has shared some pretty grave warnings about the future. He claims to be from the year 2671, and in his latest video, he lets the fine people of the internet know about some of the notable stuff that's going to go down in the remainder of 2024. Keep May 15th marked down in your calendar because an alien race is going to show up on Earth and transport 10,000 people to another planet. But aliens coming to Earth isn't going to catch our attention for long though, because May 27th marks the beginning of the next American Civil War, which will then lead to the outbreak of World War III. But don't be too worried about your hands or feet being blown off in the war, because less than a month after the fighting kicks off, a new fruit will be discovered that helps regrow lost limbs. Also in June, the very first human-chimp hybrid will be created, and June 19th also sees a new type of storm form called a mind storm, which causes people to lose their minds and go on violent rampages. As if World War III isn't enough already. Now we have a 28 days later situation on our hands. But the best part of it all, summer, it's really gonna end with a bang. When real-life dragons are discovered in the Rocky Mountains. They fly, they breathe fire, and they even speak English. Yes, specifically English. Sorry to everyone else in the world. You'll just have to watch these dragons fly around while we chat with them. Next on the list we have Darkness Time Traveler. Now, our boy Darkness has a pretty ominous bio on his TikTok channel / page / whatever you call it, reading, "Darkness is coming. The Shadow Network is almost here," from the year 2858. The Shadow Network, Jankies. I'm guessing that's not just a TV station that shows clips of shadows 24/7. In Darkness's latest video, they claim that the solar eclipse that just went down last week was actually a smokescreen for a bunch of alien beings to fly down to Earth on meteors, obscured from our view because of the eclipse. Because apparently we wouldn't be able to see meteors flying down the Earth because it's a little bit darker out. These alien beings are known by many other alien species though as the Planet Enders, or Endids. They spell it 2 different ways in the video. Gonna guess they wrote the text in haste though to make sure we all got this information in time. People from 2858 can make spelling mistakes too. Anyway, the Planet Endids have invaded a plethora of planets across the galaxy, and aside from their warmongering, violent ways, they've also brought a disease with them to Earth, the same disease that wiped out the alien beings who apparently once lived on Mars. So these invaders have been among us for about a week now at the time of this recording, awaiting the perfect time to strike. Because you guys are kind of watching this in the future, at least compared to me, why don't you let me know down in the comments what's going on. Our journey through time continues with a mysterious man simply known as Edward. In 2018, a man calling himself Edward came out claiming to be a time traveler from the year 5000. He said he'd been part of a top secret government time travel mission in 2004, where he traveled to the year 5000. He gave an interview where he shared a photo of what he said was Los Angeles in the future, and according to him, the city will be submerged underwater due to massive flooding caused by climate change. To substantiate his claim, Edward provided a photograph which he said depicted the future state of LA. In the photo, he described seeing skyscrapers and other buildings submerged in water, with only the tops visible above the waterline. He also stated that in the future, the effects of global warming will cause sea levels to rise significantly, leading to widespread flooding in coastal cities around the world, including Los Angeles, and that the inhabitants of these cities will have to adapt to new living conditions, with the remaining population living on the water's surface. Next, we have the Greek military time travelers. In 2017, an anonymous man claimed that after serving in the Greek military for 6 years, he was invited in 2013 to participate in a top secret time travel project. According to his account, this project saw him travel to the year 3207, a journey that lasted 2 days from his perspective. About a month after his story came out, another anonymous man from Greece also said he was a student, when in 2008 he was reportedly approached by a professor who offered him the chance to be part of a time travel experiment. He accepted and claimed to have been sent to the year 10,000. The purpose of this experiment was said to be related to gaining knowledge about a future war between humans and artificial intelligence. Again, I think they sent him way too far into the future if it's a war between humans and artificial intelligence. 10,000? That's pretty far up there. Maybe there's something wrong with the machine. And also, I mean, according to some other time travelers we've discussed already, that's a war we won't be winning. They could have just asked them, saved the whole trip. Next up we have Athos Salomé, who's now being referred to as the modern day Nostradamus. He's made all these predictions about the future, a lot of them very similar to the type of stuff we've heard of before when it comes to end of the world conspiracies, alien contact coming soon, AI reaching a new level of awareness and taking over, more deadly natural disasters, a big war, soon we'll be able to communicate with the dead through artificial intelligence technology, you know, all your standard stuff. But what I find really genuinely interesting and kind of creepy about this whole thing is that I'm honestly not even sure if this Athos Salomé guy is a real person. I've seen plenty of pictures of him, and I've read news articles quoting things he's apparently said. I've seen other people in videos quoting things he said. I'm one of them. We have a whole video on this guy on the channel. Check it out after this. But I haven't seen footage of him actually moving his mouth and talking on video. I've seen like one, but it's like a narrator over top of it and it's like low quality. It could be AI generated. And I mean, just look at him. Doesn't he look like he could be an AI generated image to you? I mean, all these news articles say he makes TikTok videos, but I can't find them. So what the hell is actually going on here? Who is Athos Salomé? Is there a real person behind all these predictions, or is this some kind of artificially created thing? And if so, who created it? Next up, we have a man who claimed to have traveled through time with Barack Obama, Andrew Basiago. Basiago claimed he was part of Project Pegasus, a secret US government initiative that he says took place during the 60s and 70s. This project focused on developing technology for teleportation and time travel. He said he was chosen as a participant when he was just a young tyke because of his father's connection to the project. The technologies he mentioned included the chronovisor and teleporters. A chronovisor is said to be a device that allows users to view events from the past and future, while teleporters are said to enable physical travel across time and space instantaneously. But he didn't just go forwards in time, no, he traveled back to 1863, where he witnessed the Gettysburg Address delivered by President Abe Lincoln himself. Basiago was very public with his claims. At one point, he even ran for president, with part of his platform promising to reveal the secrets of time travel and teleportation technology. I mean, how did he not win the presidency? Doesn't everyone want to know all of these secrets? It was a cheap tactic, but I guess in the end, it didn't work anyway. Finally, we have the one and only John Titor. This is probably the most well-known time-traveling claim in the history of the internet. Now, of course, the whole thing is very far-fetched, but what is interesting about these posts are how detailed they are. Whoever this John Titor really is or was, quite the imagination. Or he's a real time traveler, obviously. So it all began in November of 2000 when someone started posting on online forums claiming to be an American military time traveler from the year 2036. They'd later start using the name John Titor in future posts, and according to Titor, he was sent back to 1975 originally to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer in order to read older programming languages in the future. He claims this machine was needed to debug legacy computer programs that existed in his time. And on his way back to 2036, Titor claimed he made a stopover in the year 2000 for personal reasons, and during this time is when he decided to interact with people on internet message boards. He gave detailed explanations about how his time machine and how time travel worked in general. He included diagrams and descriptions of its operation based on theoretical physics concepts. Till this day, it's still a complete mystery as to who this guy was. Was it just some dude having some fun? Was it a social experiment of some kind? We'll probably never know. What I do know though is that his whole story was a bit more interesting than just like, oh, aliens invade in the future. Going back from an old IBM computer? I don't know. creative.
The sky is falling and the world is ending. We've heard it all before, but this time it might just be true. Why? Because Baba Vanga said it. And considering that she accurately predicted the 2022 droughts and floods, the Twin Tower disaster, the Kirsch disaster, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and the death of Indira Gandhi and her own death, I'm inclined to believe her. Right before she died, she made the prediction that the world would come to an end in the year 5079. Of course, this comes after the resolution of the world hunger crisis in 2025, something to immediately look forward to, and organ transplants that extend the average lifespan to at least 100 years old in the year 2046. Oh, and of course, communism's return in 2076. But it appears that even with time travel becoming a thing in the year 2304, the world's end is set in stone for the 6th millennia.
Baba Vanga also predicted that things would be getting pretty bad for Europe starting in 2024, mostly due to rises in terror attacks, leading to a change of power in Europe and eventually leading to many Europeans being displaced. I remember first bringing this up in a video months back, and it's actually kind of eerie talking about it now with the recent incidents in Moscow. Is it just a complete coincidence, or could it be connected? Share your thoughts down below as always. It is kind of creepy though that Baba Vanga even predicted there would be an attempt on the president of Russia's life in 2024, which is of course Vladimir Putin. Apparently the attacker will be someone from Russia though. Now this is yet to be seen, but if that does happen, I might start second guessing how I feel about this whole Baba Vanga having seen into the future thing.
Speaking of those attacks, James, Baba Vanga has predicted that many of them will actually end up utilizing biological weaponry, which is completely terrifying because biological weapons are generally airborne, meaning that you don't need to be caught in any kind of direct line of attack to be infected by them. All you really have to do is breathe in. Have you ever heard of anthrax, botulism, smallpox, the plague? Well, each and every one of those have been used as biological weapons in the past. And while the symptoms have varied, the results have remained the same. Mass death, caused by either poisoning or the rapid spread of disease. I really hope Baba got this one wrong, and most things on the list wrong, because I really don't feel like being scared of leaving my house again, due to fear of death by inhalation.
Alright, so these last couple points definitely play into her predictions of political upheaval said to soon start taking place. One of Baba Vanga's famous prophecies told of a, quote, strong dragon that will seize humanity. What is this dragon exactly? Well, many have interpreted this to mean China, that the nation's power will continue to strengthen on a global level, completely changing the power dynamics of the world. And will things go smoothly? I mean, probably not. The idea here is that there will be another world war before the dust settles and power has changed hands. And I don't know, I think this could easily just be paranoid fear-mongering, but it's not like war never happens either. So hold on to your butts, I guess.
Let's look on the bright side. An uprising of terror, biological weapons deployment, political upheaval, which obviously results in the inevitable economic crash. Did I say bright side? I meant to say we're screwed. As if the economy wasn't already far gone enough, Baba has predicted that things will only get worse as the year progresses onwards. Rising debts, mass inflation, heightened mortgages, and an increase in poverty are apparently all safe bets for our 2024 bingo cards. Which makes sense, and I honestly don't actually think we needed Baba for this one. I mean, come on, there's like 5 major wars already going on, and a crap ton of international conflict and tension. I'm actually scared though about how this year is going to progress. I mean, we could be looking at lost access to credit, shutdown of banks, and demand for goods far outweighing our supply. I know this is extremist, but you know, that's what you're here for. And for those of you feeling really good about recently securing some appreciating investments, you'll probably be waiting just a bit longer than you expected on those returns, if they even come at all, that is.
Baba Vanga also predicted first contact with aliens very soon, possibly even in 2024. Now, and I know many claim that aliens already are among us. I can't say for certain, I've never seen an alien, but the prediction is really referring to alien contact being a globally recognized thing, like undeniable. Now, will this be good or bad? That remains to be seen, but we're definitely seeing an increase in UFO sightings and acknowledgements from the government that unidentified flying objects are a thing, so this one actually seems kinda likely. I, for one, very much hope that first contact with aliens happens. I really like having the option of just talking and conversing with something that isn't human for once, that can actually talk back. I mean, you talk to your pets all the time, right? Unless, of course, aliens turn out to be ill-intentioned, but, you know, plenty of ill-intentioned humans out there as well. I think if aliens did turn up, we'd be far too distracted dealing with them to be waging war on each other. It might still lead to the destruction of the entire human race if the aliens decided to attack, but at least we wouldn't be attacking each other for once, and that would be kind of nice.
Okay guys, this list has been kind of depressing so far. I mean, aliens are pretty cool, but one of the points literally outlined the possibility of falling into a Great Depression. But not all of Baba Vanga's predictions are bad. In fact, this one's pretty good. A cure for both cancer and Alzheimer's disease has been predicted by Baba Vanga. I'm really hoping this one is true and that most of the other ones aren't, because this would be an amazing medical advancement that, in my opinion, really should have and could have and probably did come sooner, but the pharmaceutical industry is kind of greedy. So, with that being said, these treatments will most likely be incredibly expensive, but I'm trying to stay positive. Earlier this year, the Russian government put out a statement saying, "We have come very close to the creation of so-called cancer vaccines and immunomodulatory medicines of a new generation." And they added, "I hope that they will be effectively used as methods of individual therapy." This is great news, but at the same time, considering the ongoing conflict, I wouldn't be holding my breath anytime too soon.
Next we have Baba Vanga's Mars prophecies. So, will the stuff we've listed so far wipe us out completely? Well, the 5079 thing seems like the real end, but most of the other stuff might just put us on the brink of destruction. Because further into the future, we may form a colony on Mars. This colony will grow to such power, though, that it may become a superpower of its own, demanding independence from Earth, leading to a conflict that will rage between 2170 to 2256. A very oddly specific prophecy, one that me and you will likely never actually get to see play out unless human life expectancy drastically improves over the coming decades. A cancer vaccine might help with that. I certainly hope humans will have gotten beyond petty squabbling by the time we've started building colonies on other planets though, but unfortunately, I don't know, I wouldn't put it past us.
Cyber attacks are nothing new, but they might be getting a whole new meaning if Baba Vanga's prediction for an uprising in cyber criminality is true. Baba said that in 2024, not only would we be seeing an increase in common cyber attacks, such as phishing scams, ransomware, malware, and information stealing, but also an increase in some much more serious offenses as well. Baba predicted that the targets of these cyber attacks are going to get a lot more communal, with attackers going after communities and nations rather than the individual. She believes that the main targets will be power grids and water treatment plants, which of course lines up with all of the other predictions of chaos and terror, as these attacks would substantially increase threats to national security. Honestly, I feel like there's just no winning these days, unless of course you find yourself a plot of land in the middle of nowhere next to a source of fresh water, obviously. Oh, and get yourself equipped with an in-house distillation and irrigation system and solar panels, and you have to have a farm full of animals and crops to feed the animals and a whole bunch of other survival stuff. Am I saying we're screwed? Well, I'm not saying we're not.
And we're gonna finish off the list with a terrible global disease. The joy. Yeah, this would be my least favorite way for the world to end. At least with aliens and like war, you can see your attackers. Disease is so much more insidious. You can't actually see it coming. You can't fight it. Apparently, sometime this year, according to Baba Vanga anyway, Donald Trump is going to contract a terrible illness that will cause him brain trauma and deafness. Whether or not this is referring to the same illness that will sweep its way across the globe remains to be seen. All I do know is that if Trump starts complaining about not being able to hear Sleepy Joe, I'm just gathering up a bunch of canned food, I'm driving as far away as I can, and I'm digging an underground bunker to protect myself from this disease, whatever biological weapons are going to unleash themselves on the planet, whatever alien species is coming to crash the party, or whatever powerful dragon country is going to swoop across the earth to take it all over. Alright, next up we have Edgar Cayce, often referred to as the Sleeping Prophet. He was an American psychic who did most of his work in the early to mid 1900s. He was known for entering into this deep, trance-like state while giving readings on a wide range of topics like health, spirituality, Atlantis for some reason came up a lot, and of course future events. Now, he didn't explicitly discuss time travel, but he did describe his consciousness leaving his body, combining this with future prophecies, and that's basically traveling in time. Casey's predictions often revolved around a concept he referred to as the Earth changes. According to his readings, these changes were geological and environmental shifts that would happen in the future, leading to problems. Some of his predictions included the shifting of the Earth's axis, which would result in changes in climate and sea levels. He also spoke of societal and political catastrophe, saying the only way to avoid it was through spiritual awakening and moral development as a society to help mitigate the severity of these events. Let's throw a witch into the mix, shall we? Mother Shipton. One tale goes that her mother Agatha was a witch herself and summoned the devil before her to bring her a child. And that child was Ursula Southill, aka Mother Shipton, who instead of crying like most babies when she was born, made an unsettling cackling sound because she was a half and half. Dad was a devil, mom was a witch. Bit of a nasty shock for everyone when they found out. She lived in the 16th century, and her predictions, which were often in the form of rhymes, have been studied and analyzed for centuries. Her verses are filled with vivid imagery and poetic language. She prophesies technological advancements, political changes, and horrible natural disasters. She's said to have predicted the invention of cars, submarines, and even airplanes. But she also made vague predictions about the end times. The original date was 1821, which obviously didn't come true, unless we're all just living in some Matrix-style computer simulation or something. So the end of the world date keeps being reassessed and bumped forward. Don't worry though, guys, things will all come crashing down eventually. Next up, we have Harold Camping, a former Christian radio evangelist. This guy used his mind to travel to the future so often, they just kept fumbling the dates of his doomsday predictions and had to keep reassessing and, again, bumping them up. Unfortunately though, everything just kept on being okay. First he said the world was going to end in early September of 94. It didn't, but he was adamant that 94 was going to be the year and reassessed and realized, oh wait, it's actually end of September. Sorry, 29th, not the 6th. Then he bumped it up to October and so on. But you know what? I can't imagine being clairvoyant is very easy on the brain. It must be a bit confusing and overwhelming to the senses. Anyway, then he said Christ was going to return on May 21st of 2011, which was a good thing for him and his followers, but bad for everyone else, of course, as the pitiful non-believers were going to be suffering an eternal torment. It was a very exciting time, but sadly, May 21st passed on without any horrific suffering, on a mass scale anyway. I guess somebody's suffering every day. So Harold Camping, being the incredible clairvoyant wizard that he was, said, well, a spiritual judgment, that happened on May 21st. We've all been assessed, getting everyone's paperwork together, but get excited, folks. October, that's when the physical rapture is gonna happen. And it didn't. And apparently Camping was clairvoyant enough to know it too, because he quit working on the radio station just a few days before this apparent biblical apocalypse was set to take place. If there's two things that seem to go together like chocolate and peanut butter, it's time travel and space travel. And that's exactly why I have Heaven's Gate cult leader Marshall Applewhite on the list. This guy firmly believed the world was coming to an end and that the only way to survive was to ascend to a higher plane of existence by shedding the physical form and reaching the very creatively titled Next Level, where he and his followers would live a happy, transcendent existence in space. Most of you know how this went. Applewhite and the rest of the Heaven's Gate cult donned their uniforms, complete with armbands reading Heaven's Gate Away Team, and consumed heavy amounts of a certain substance, washing it down with vodka, before suffocating themselves with plastic bags over their head. I'm not really sure why they needed the uniforms, seeing as the whole point was they were shedding their physical forms, but who am I, right? You know? Rudolf Steiner, this guy was the founder of a spiritual movement called anthroposophy. His teachings delved into the nature of existence, human consciousness, and the spiritual world in general. His philosophy often touched on the idea of spiritual evolution and the cyclical nature of existence. He often discussed reincarnation in his work, meaning that, according to him, people go through multiple lifetimes to learn and evolve spiritually. so it may not be time travel in a conventional sense, but it does imply a journey through time on a more spiritual level. He also spoke about the idea that humanity is on a path of development, and our collective actions and choices play a big role in shaping the future, and a major consequence of humanity not developing spiritually, again, according to him, meant that a very dark future was ahead. Next on the list is David Meade. This guy is a conspiracy theorist and author who's made a number of predictions about an impending apocalypse, mostly linking it to a planet called Nibiru, or Planet X. Meade, who identifies as a Christian numerologist, claimed to have uncovered hidden codes within the Bible, using them to predict specific celestial events. His predictions have focused on the alignment of celestial bodies and certain numerical calculations that point to a catastrophic collision between Earth and Planet X. I remember hearing a lot about this doomsday prediction leading up to 2012. That was a big year for end of the world predictions. Once again, didn't pan out though. Next up we have David Icke. David Icke is a British conspiracy theorist known for promoting some pretty unconventional ideas. One of his most notorious claims involves the existence of shape-shifting reptilian humanoid aliens who, according to him, secretly control the world. You've heard of this stuff before, especially if you watch this channel. Icke suggests that many prominent figures, world leaders, and celebrities for the most part, are actually reptilians in disguise. The idea that powerful figures are actually reptilian aliens manipulating humanity has become a pretty well-known conspiracy theory at this point, and some people really believe it, like wholeheartedly. Icke has also made plenty of predictions about the end of the world, and as well as other, global conspiracies. He's talked about how the global elite, working in collaboration with these supposed reptilian beings, are orchestrating events to control and manipulate the world, and of course, they don't have our best intentions in mind. I guess his publisher might have been one of these reptilians, because at a certain point, apparently he was just like, no more of this. I can't publish any of these books anymore. So now he just self-publishes. He's got like tons of books about this stuff. It's nuts. Finally though, we have Baba Vanga. If you've been watching this channel for any length of time, you've probably heard of this lady before. She's made all kinds of horrific predictions about the future, some of which were pretty eerily accurate. For those of you who aren't aware though, Baba Vanga was a Bulgarian mystic and clairvoyant born in 1911 and died in 1996. She became famous for her apparent ability to make predictions about the future, and a good number of these predictions were pretty bad. Her predictions were wide-ranging, covering global events, natural disasters. One of her biggest apocalyptic predictions was that the world would end in the 51st century, but she didn't really give a lot of explicit detail about how that would occur, so good luck to us trying to avoid it. Similar to Nostradamus, her prophecies were usually a bit on the cryptic side, open to interpretation.
First up is the 2030 Traveler. A time traveler known only as Noah claims to be from the year 2030. Now this story I'm telling you is from 2017, so just keep that in mind. He turned up on the radio show Kyle and Jackie O and told them that he traveled multiple times in the past but was stuck in the present day. I usually went from like early 1999 to like 2018 around here, but when I got stuck I was in the year 2017. He explained. So, how does he do it? I have many body implications and things all over myself, and I step in this giant dome and these things fire up, and basically a large electronic weight basically pushes you through time. It feels like you got electrocuted, he said. Now, one of the most shocking things was that he claims that us humans will be able to communicate with aliens. He said, we've confirmed the existence of aliens, but they're not incredibly intelligent. Right now, the government has communication with them, but we don't know it. In the future, we actually are in contact with aliens that are just as smart as humans, although we have many more advancements over them, he said. Now, of course, his claims have attracted skepticism, and in response, he agreed to take a lie detector test on camera. He listed events he said will happen in the next 12 years, and then the interviewer asked if he was telling the truth, and the machine records that he is. I mean, I guess this guy is legit. Up next is the chain of events. TikTok user Eno Alarkic, who is a time traveler from 2671, has gained thousands of followers on the app by posting warnings about future events. In one video, Eno wrote, "Attention, I am a time traveler from the year 2671, and I'm here to warn you about these 5 dates to come. November 30th, 2022, the James Webb Telescope discovers a planet that is a mirrored version of Earth. January 1st, 2023, a plane flying over the Bermuda Triangle goes missing. March 3rd, 2023, a message is received all around the world that seems to have come from the ocean. May 15th, 2023, a 750 mega tsunami hits the California coast, mainly San Francisco. And June 18th, 2023, 7 people mysteriously fall from the sky, but there was nothing flying in that area." Now, how believable is this? Well, I don't really think any of this happened, but just the thoughts of these events even happening is chilling. Moving on to the alien invasion. On March 23, 2023, a time traveler who warned of an alien invasion claims that said extraterrestrials had arrived on Earth and abducted 8,000 Earthlings. The champion has arrived to bring 8,000 people to another planet, they said. The so-called time traveler warned of a very hostile alien species known as the Distance that are coming to take back the Earth. It's a fight we will not win. They claim that the champions were looking for the best engineers, scientists, doctors, and leaders, and these 8,000 people are what keep the human species alive from inside and outside threats. Thankfully though, they add, "I want you all to know that you are safe, and I'm trying to warn you of what's to come." Now, last year we were having all those weird UFO sightings. Could those have been related to this incident they are talking about? I don't know, maybe. Now we have the dangers of technology. A time traveler claims to have come back from the future to warn us all of an impending apocalypse, humans versus technology. They said there was one huge computer controlling everything, which is not controlled by a person, but makes all demands and decisions itself. Apparently the computer had the power to destroy the entire planet at once. So did this person really just confirm that we live in a simulation? I think so. Now, speaking to the camera, the time traveler, who had his voice and identity changed to protect himself, said, "I was not born here, I was born in 3258 on December 1st in the European Empire." Now, the time traveler explained that he was drafted into the army at 18 and wore a uniform made of gold and saw everything that happened in 3260. He said there were not only robots, they were very clever and can take the decisions communicated with each other. He said the war began on September 21st, 33,000 when he was 42, and that there has never been such a war on the planet. It was fateful and tragic for all people all over the world. Now, I'm not gonna lie guys, I feel like this is plausible and makes me scared, but I won't be alive in 33,000, so I don't really have to worry. Now let's talk about the alien war. A time traveler from the year 2858 has claimed the world will end in 2038 during a war with an alien species that has apparently already invaded Earth. A mysterious social media user who claims to be a time traveler from the year 2858 has claimed to know how the world is going to end. The user claims that aliens have come to Earth to take over the planet, but the war apparently won't start until 2024. Now, guys, let me remind you that we are in 2024 right now. They said the first war will begin in early 2024 and will end in 2038, with the Earth being destroyed. Captioning the clip, they added, "Another species of aliens save us, but not the planet." The first being that everyone would dream of an alien invasion by a species called the Zels on February 28th, before the actual invasion, which was supposedly meant to take place on March 2nd. Now, people took to the comments to debate whether the alleged warnings could come true or not. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Catastrophic events are next. A time traveler from the year 3036 has left us some scary messages about the future. In a series of videos posted on his channel, the mysterious traveler claims the world's population in 3036 will reach record levels, with domestic animals such as cats and dogs considered exotic. Now, he also warned of something called the Big Blackout. The Big Blackout, if I'm not mistaken, happens in December 2052. Basically, everything goes dark for an upward of 5 years, the internet, the power, it all gets disconnected on account of what's called the terrors, but many speculate otherwise. Anyway, 5 years, it's turmoil, riots, you name it, it's pretty much the worst of times. It takes them upwards to 20 years to get the power back online, and even then it's absolute chaos. Now he also added, "You're as free as you're ever gonna get right now," he said, staring directly back into the camera. "These are considered the last days of freedom. Your kids won't even see it, so suck it up, because as simple-minded as your time period is, you got it pretty good, you just don't know it." Yeah, that is scary. I do not like that. Then we have the end of humanity. A TikToker that goes by Javier claims to be a time traveler. Javier's first video, posted in February 2021, depicts scenes throughout the city of Valencia, Spain that look relatively normal, except for one fact: the city appears to be completely void of people. In the video, which has been viewed over 7 million times, he claims to be a time traveler from the year 2027. He says that by then humanity will have gone extinct. A translation of the text within the video describes the eerie scene. Nobody in shopping malls, nobody on the streets. In a video posted soon after, he adds, "I keep trying to find human life, I'm starting to lose hope." Now, what happens to humans, he doesn't say, but 2027 isn't too far away, and we have to prevent whatever he claims will happen. On to the time travel program. A disguised woman who has introduced herself as Mia claims to have been recruited into a secret US time travel program before she finished high school. The alleged time traveler said she was offered good money to travel nearly 600 years into the future, where the world is completely different to how we know it today. Allegedly, the world faces the irreparable consequences of climate change, the rise of artificial intelligence, and aliens settling on Earth. Now this seems realistic. Now by the year 2600, the concept of independent nations will cease to exist, and humans will be ruled over by a world government run by AI. At the same time, humans will supposedly live in 11 megacities spread across the globe, where they will coexist with smart robots and aliens. The time traveler said, "I visited the year 2600, and it's very hard to explain to you what it was like because it's so different from the world we live in today. I saw robots, aliens, and human beings all living together in peace." And she added that, "I talked to people from this time and they told me how the world had changed. They said that the red sky was caused by global warming and that they all had microchips in them that made them smarter than their brains normally were. They said countries no longer existed and that the whole world was governed by AI." Yeah, that sounds terrifying. Next up, we have Trevor the Time Traveler. Self-proclaimed Trevor the Time Traveler is from the year 2049, and he claims to know when World War III will break out. He claims to be visiting from over 2 decades into our future in search of his pal Roger, aka Kronos. But while on his so-called mission, he stopped to make videos warning people of what's to come, with claims about catastrophic events from aliens to natural disasters. However, among these warnings, Trevor claimed to know when World War III would break out and shared information to his followers. In a clip, Trevor wrote, "Here are 3 dates that something terrible is going to happen. Remember this date: February 21st, 2024, something very big will happen. May 29th, 2030, a 3rd World War will start, lasting 7 years between the North and South. And 2037, the war ends and the second baby boom happens, growing the population too high." And last on our list is that the US is destroyed. A TikTok time traveler posted a video saying, "I'm a real time traveler from the year 2236, and I've come to a date and time to warn you about upcoming events in the next few years," they wrote. They said in 2022, scientists discover a way to bring back the megalodon shark through using its DNA, and they create a real megalodon in 2023, and surprisingly nothing goes wrong. In 2025, scientists discover signs of life on 2 different planets, and they're proven to be more advanced than humans, they predicted. A meteor will come down to Earth in 2034 and will wipe out half of America, they said, and the alleged time traveler suggests that 50% of the US would be destroyed in just 12 years. The self-confessed Time Lord made another forecast for the upcoming decade, as they predicted the Maui dolphin will become extinct. Now this isn't all. The TikToker also claimed that Disney will buy another large film studio, and one of the largest tornadoes will hit North America, causing many casualties. Now, while we don't know if the Meg is back yet, I think this is believable. people. We'll also just have to wait until 2025 to see if they're right.
First up, we have Baba Vanga's prediction of Oumuamua, an asteroid being sent to Earth by forces that are beyond our world. Baba Vanga made the prediction before her death on August 11th of 1996, which is insane considering the fact that Oumuamua wasn't discovered until October 19th of 2017. Oumuamua is the first interstellar object to be detected passing through our solar system. Interstellar meaning that it originated in a solar system other than our own. It is debated whether or not the object is an asteroid or a meteor, but what is clear to scientists is that this foreign object is huge, 400 meters long, and getting closer to Earth each and every day. Baba Vanga predicts that one day the object will collide with Earth, but not only that, she believes that it was sent by aliens to assess human cells on Earth, which is quite fitting when you take into consideration the English translation of Oumuamua, which means a messenger from afar arriving first. Could this asteroid possibly be the foreshadowing of alien life arriving on our planet? Let me know what you think down below. Next up, we have Baba Vanga's prediction of a lot of major earthquakes happening in 2024, with some taking place in places they generally wouldn't occur. Sound familiar? Just 4 days ago, on Friday, April 5th, New York was hit by a massive earthquake that had a magnitude of 4.8 and caused the Statue of Liberty to shake profusely. It lasted about 30 seconds, and local resident Charita Walcock described the feeling as being like in the center of a drum circle. The last time New York was hit by a large earthquake was in 2011 with a much higher magnitude, albeit of 5.8. What's really strange though is that generally earthquakes occur where two tectonic plates meet, so how the hell did one occur smack dab in the middle of a tectonic plate in New York? I'm not a scientist, so I really have no clue, but what I do know is that Baba Vanga's prediction is looking a lot scarier when you take that fact into perspective. Not only that, but this year alone, just 3 months and a few days in, we've already seen 143 6.0 to 6.9 magnitude earthquakes, 1,580 5.0 to 5.9, and 15,817 4.0 to 4.9 earthquakes. And the Earth is cracking, so not overly promising for the future, if you ask me. Next up, we have Baba Vanga's prediction of Earth's orbit changing, which will lead us to an increase in global climate change and extreme glacial defrosting. This is both new and not new. Why? Well, because we have known for a long time that over time the Earth's orbit does slowly change due to gravitational pulls in the atmosphere that cause the orbit to become either more circular or elliptical, which is basically just a fancy word for oval because the word ovular was already taken. Anyways, the existence of changes within Earth's orbit was discovered in 1989 by scientific expert Jacques Lascar after Baba Vanga had made her initial prediction. Fast forward to 2024, while the Earth's orbit has barely changed, it has changed, and we are experiencing glacial defrosting at a rate that has never been observed before, which is pretty nerve-wracking, especially when you consider this next point. Baba Vanga predicted the discovery of a frozen virus in Siberia in 2022 that would eventually lead to another global pandemic. In 2022, a group of French scientists discovered, studied, and revived an ancient virus known as the zombie virus that they found buried in a frozen lake in Russia. The virus was discovered as a result of, guessed it, melting ice in the Antarctic region. And after tens of thousands of years of the ancient virus lying dormant, scientists thought it would be a good idea to revive it. Really? Lucky for us, this particular virus only attacks single-celled organisms, but who's to say the next one they find and decide to carelessly reanimate won't lead to the destruction of life as we know it. Say it with me, we do not reanimate things that could kill us. We don't. Well, according to Baba Vanga, did predict that sometime in 2024, Putin's reign over Russia would end after meeting his death at the hands of someone close to him, perhaps someone working on one of his political or military teams. According to Vladimir Putin himself, at this point in time he has already survived 6 separate assassination attempts on his life since 2002. While that may very well be the case, according to Baba Vanga, it is unlikely that he will survive many more. Moving a bit further into the future, we have the prediction that 23 years after Europe becomes Islamic in 2043, the United States of America will reach a major milestone in weapons technology. In 2066, the US will create a weapon called the Environmental Destructor that will freeze everything in its path. Whether or not this means that the United States will have created technology that allows them to act like Frozone from The Incredibles, literally causing everything in its path to turn to ice, or if the weapon simply just destroys areas causing their ability to support life to become frozen in time, remains to be seen. Personally, I don't like the sound of either, and again, like most predictions on this list, I really hope she got this one wrong. But this one, however, I really hope she got right, as Baba Vanga has predicted that world hunger will be over by the year 2025, so that's coming up real soon. How? I have no clue whatsoever, but in an incredibly unstable world with an incredibly unstable future, it's nice to hear this kind of thing coming out of the mouth of a woman who has, in the past, predicted the future with over 80% accuracy. While world hunger has gone down significantly since the 1980s, we still have a long way to go in solving the issue worldwide. Increased agricultural productivity and the promotion of sustainable food systems will most likely be integral components in reaching this goal, but if we want it done by 2025, like Baba Vanga predicts, we better act fast. Okay, this next point is pretty positive too. By 2046, Baba Vanga has predicted that organ donations and organ transplant technologies will become so incredibly advanced that they will expand the average lifespan to more than 100 years, which means that in 2046 and onwards, centennials, people who live to or past 100 years of age, will become the rule rather than the exception. Considering the incredible advancements we have already made in medicine so far, paired with the prediction of a cure for cancer coming out in 2024, I'm incredibly hopeful. Cautious, but hopeful. Again, these treatments will probably cost upwards of hundreds of thousands of dollars, so like I said, cautious, but hopeful. Next up, the return of communism, which Baba Vanga has predicted will take place in the year 2076. The arguments both for and against communism are plenty and constantly changing as the definition of communism changes to adapt advancements in technology, human rights policies, military medicine, etc. So honestly, it's hard to tell whether or not this return of communism will fall under any kind of modern day definition of communism, or how it will play out in a world full of automated labor. So I guess all I have to say is that while Baba Vanga did predict the return of communism, we have no way of knowing what that will look like, I think. And finally, to finish off our list today, we have Baba Vanga's prediction of some pretty major solar activity that could have some pretty serious consequences for Earth. The prediction was set for 2023, and it came true in 2023. On December 15th of 2023, it was reported that a NASA telescope had captured the biggest solar flare the world has seen in years. A solar flare that was responsible for temporarily knocking out radio communications across the globe. The solar flare was accompanied by a massive radio burst that caused a full 2 hours of radio interference in the United States and other areas of the world facing the sun at the time of the solar flare. The event went down in history as being one of the largest solar radio events to ever be recorded. So again, it seems Baba Vanga got it right, which makes me very, very, very nervous. But what do you think? Lucky guess, or was the woman seriously onto something?
Number 10. Project Pegasus and the Chrononauts. While that may sound like a sweet alt-rock band, Project Pegasus didn't have anything to do with music, but with moving through time. Seattle attorney Andrew Basaggio has been making claims since 2004 that when he was younger, starting at the age of 7, he participated in the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA, Project Pegasus, focusing on teleportation and time travel. He and a few others were chosen at a young age because allegedly children could adapt well to the strains of moving between past, present, and future. Along with his fellow chrononauts, love the name, he adventured throughout time to places like the Gettysburg Address in 1863 and to Ford's Theater to witness the assassination of President Lincoln, quote, 5 or 6 times. I don't know why he was so obsessed with Lincoln. He was allegedly even captured in a photograph. He claims that he witnessed 8 different time travel technologies throughout the course of the project, and that most were based on engineering specs and sketches by Nikola Tesla. And if one person was to come up with teleportation or time travel, I think it would be Tesla himself. Pure genius, that one. Andrew even met himself a few times in the past, and surprisingly didn't cause a paradox. His claims are supported by others who say that the Defense Department has had time travel capabilities for over 40 years, but has kept it secret. Andrew Basiago also ran for president in 2016, but we all know how that turned out. Maybe he should have used time travel to change the outcome. Number 9. Vrillin Ashtar Radio Incident. On Saturday, November 26, 1977, in the southern United Kingdom, a mysterious voice interrupted a news broadcast and gave strange commands and predictions of the future. Accompanied by unsettling pulsing noises and echoes, the electronic-sounding voice claimed to be Vrillin, a representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command. Aliens or future beings sent to deliver a warning message that humans must denounce and remove all of their weapons of evil in order for an age of peace and prosperity to come to fruition, the age of Aquarius. If humans do not comply and turn from their evil ways, humanity will fall. Here's a little clip.
This is the voice of Allah, representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command, speaking to you.
Though the message is foreboding and super creepy, this messenger from the future actually makes some good points and gives some decent advice, like have no fear, seek only to know yourselves and live in harmony with the ways of your planet Earth. Seems like they were listening to the hippies at the time, and they had the right idea. After taking control of the station, they bid farewell and said they would leave our plane of existence, leaving us with their final words, "May you be blessed by the supreme love and truth of the cosmos." Aww. Thanks, Vrillin. Number 8. Guardian Angel. In 2019, a video surfaced of a shop owner in Turkey tending to some of his merchandise. Very normal, nothing to see here, until a man calmly walks up behind him and casually taps him on the shoulder as he walks by, causing the shop owner to turn around. But not a moment later, a gate from a large truck driving by swings open, nearly killing him. And if it wasn't for this mystery man's actions, the shop owner would surely be dead. The truck driver returned to apologize for what had happened, but the mysterious stranger was nowhere to be found. Some commenters believe that this man had come back from the future to save lives, perhaps not just the shopkeep's. That's the only one that we caught on camera. Others have noticed that the two men look similar, even their outfits aren't far off, implying that maybe it's the same man, or their son somehow come back from the future. Though it looks like it was filmed on a potato, so who can be sure. Number 7. Rudolph Fentz. The story of Rudolph Fentz is one that has been hotly debated amongst the time travel investigation community. In 1951, people in Times Square in New York City noticed a man suddenly appear wearing 19th century clothing. He appeared to be disoriented and confused, and after running into an intersection in a daze, he was hit by a car and fatally injured. When his body was inspected, they found strange items in his possession that appeared to have come from another time. A copper token for a beer worth 5 cents bearing the name of a saloon which was unknown even to older residents of the area, a bill for the care of a horse and the washing of a carriage made by a stable that was not listed in any address book, old banknotes, business cards with his name and address, as well as a letter sent to him postmarked in 1876. These items in his attire have led people to believe that Rudolph was a man from the past, probably from 1876, who unfortunately slipped through time to a place that he didn't or couldn't comprehend, and his confusion ultimately killed him. Tragic story, really. Number 6. Bob White. In 2003, Dave Hill, along with countless others, received an email from Bob White. Normally, a spam email would just get ignored by Dave, but this one was too strange to pass up. The email explained that he needed help from a time traveler, or any alien disguised as human, because his life had been severely tampered with, and he needed, quote, temporal reversion to correct it. He resorted to the internet to find help.
You ever come across anything like time travel?
He asked the people receiving the message for strange mechanical parts that didn't exist, like an AMD dimensional warp generator module containing the GRC79 induction motor, or an Acme 5X24 series time transducing capacitor with built-in temporal displacement. I don't even think a Time Lord could help him find these ridiculous sounding parts. But Dave Hill decided to have some fun and responded to his message saying that he could get what he needed. And he even sent an old hard drive motor to Bob, claiming that it was a warp generator, which Bob gratefully accepted, believing it was the part he needed.
It's a time machine, Napoleon. You bought it online.
You're right.
It works, Napoleon. You don't even know.
It was later revealed that Bob White was a man named Robbie Tadino, a 22-year-old from Massachusetts who admitted to sending over 100 million messages for help out into cyberspace, and truly believed, and still does believe, that he was affected by time travel and needs to make a machine to fix it. The story he describes and the machine he seems intent on building is so specific that many people are convinced he has met time travelers or aliens and is really trying to recreate their technology with human things that just don't exist yet. Let's just hope he gets it all sorted out. Number 5. The Philadelphia Experiment and Montauk Project. I've talked about these before in a previous video, but they require another mention here as there are so many accounts of what happened that it's overwhelming. Allegedly, there was a secret military operation being performed in 1943 at the shipyard aboard the USS Eldridge. The experiment involved cloaking, not time travel, strangely enough, but when they attempted to conceal the ship with the technology they developed, the ship did indeed disappear, but that was because it was moved 10 minutes into the past, which reportedly caused some of the crew to go mad. And later, another secret military operation called the Montauk Project was tasked with creating gates for time travel, using psychic links from children who are much more attuned to these kinds of things apparently, and can open their minds more, so the witnesses claim. One of these many gates that were opened apparently led back to the USS Eldridge during the 10 minutes of time dilation, but these two experiments are linked by one person who has since shared their experience. Number 4. Al Bielek. Al Bielek was a Navy officer aboard the USS Eldridge during the Philadelphia experiment, also known as Project Rainbow, and when the time jump occurred, he wasn't sent 10 minutes into the past. He claims that he was sent forward to the year 2137. When he was rescued from the water, he was taken to a futuristic hospital where he was treated for radiation sickness they say he developed from the time jump. He described major differences in the world, the coastlines being swallowed by the oceans, worldwide government collapse followed by the rise of a system that allowed everyone to get what they need when they needed it, for free, by abolishing the concept of money. He was eventually sent back and continued to live his life, burdened by what he had learned, with few believing him, until he was later recruited by the Montauk Project as their program director for the psychics involved with creating the time tunnels, which he used to investigate as far back as 100,000 BC and as far forward as the year 6037. Of course, he maintains that the government has done everything in their power to stop him from revealing all of this, disavowing him once he went public with his stories. Do you believe his story? Let me know in the comments. Number 3. Time traveling Trump. Now, I don't like talking about this former first family very much unless it has to do with all the current investigations, but some of these coincidences are just a little too eerie, though I do believe that they are just that. This conspiracy theory came from a discovery on the Library of Congress website, where readers found books from the 1890s, one called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey, and another called 1900, or The Last President. The first is about a young man named Baron Trump, who discovers portals for time travel, and at one point in the book he was actually guided by a man named Dawn. In the second book, an odd choice for president wins the election and has someone with the last name Pence in their cabinet. Even the address where New York's Trump Tower now stands was mentioned. Personally, I believe that the former president's son Barron was named after the character in the book, not the other way around, but the connections found are certainly interesting. Number 2. Mike Markham. In early 1995, 21-year-old Mike Madman Markham attempted to build a time machine on his front porch. Of course, it didn't work, but that didn't deter him, and he kept working towards his goal. He later stole the expensive parts that he needed and caused a bit of trouble doing so. Then, after he got out of jail, he went on a radio program called Coast to Coast AM to talk about the machine he was building, saying that he was nearly finished and would be testing it soon, even giving out his phone number so that anyone with knowledge on the subject could help him out. Then he disappeared off the face of the earth. No one could find him for months, after which he said he was going to travel back in time only with his cell phone, and later that same week an old story was dug up from the 1930s of a man who was found dead on a beach in California, encapsulated in some sort of metal tube with a strange device, the description of which matches that of a cell phone from the 1990s. Could that be the eventual fate of Mike? And finally, our number 1, under the sink. In 2006, a Swedish man by the name of Håkan Nordqvist was fixing a leak from a cracked pipe under his sink when he noticed something strange, a bright light that seemed to beckon him in a way. He crawled in and suddenly appeared somewhere completely different, but he wasn't alone. He claims that he met someone there, or rather, he met himself. He claimed that he ran into himself, but a future version, perhaps around 70 years old. And since he knew no one would believe him, he pulled out his cell phone and filmed the meeting. The two men do look remarkably similar, but the clincher for this whole story is when they rolled up their sleeves and revealed that they both have the exact same tattoo, in the exact same place. We all know that one of the main rules of time travel is to never interact with yourself, so we're lucky he didn't cause a paradox and rip a hole in time and space.
Step aside, Nostradamus and Baba Vanga, cause there's a new clairvoyant in town. Athos Salomé. This guy claims to have predicted the 2020 virus, the year of Queen Elizabeth II's death, and more. He's being described as the living Nostradamus. But what other scary predictions has this guy with an absolutely exquisite jawline made? Let's jump right in. So this first prediction just came true, at least the first half of it anyway. The modern day Nostradamus predicted there would be a massive solar flare, which would result in 3 days of darkness on Earth. Well, on March 24th of this year, we had the largest solar storm since 2017, caused by a large coronal mass ejection from the sun. A coronal mass ejection, or CME, is when magnetic field and plasma mass from the sun gets ejected. This can create solar storms that can mess with power grids down here on Earth. Now, we didn't get 3 days of darkness, at least not yet. Salomé predicts this darkness will occur sometime in April with a total solar eclipse. I mean, there is going to be a solar eclipse in April. I don't know about 3 days of darkness, but that remains to be seen. He did make sure to emphasize not to worry though, stating that this prediction was, quote, metaphorical language, and due to the differences between British and American English, there are translation errors that end up causing panic. The likelihood of this happening is real, but not worldwide, just in some regions, and it will be temporary. Alright, ever wanted to talk to the dead? Well, according to another prophecy, this may soon be possible. Does this mean the dead are going to come back to life? Is he saying we're going to have a zombie outbreak on our hands? No. Actually, yes, but that's a separate prophecy. Turns out AI is going to allow for this technological / spiritual breakthrough. Now, this is a pretty out there, outlandish prediction to make. I mean, AI taking over, that's something we can all see happening. A big solar flare, sure, but the idea of actually being able to talk to dead people in the very near future, that's a bold statement. If this turns out to happen, I'll be paying a lot more attention to this guy. And not just because he looks like the embodiment of someone having typed in handsome man into an AI art program. Salomé wrote on Instagram, quote, "Imagine talking to deceased loved ones and even discovering secrets from past lives, all thanks to an innovation in artificial intelligence. This technology is not just a scientific breakthrough, but a giant step in understanding the human journey. It promises to unravel the mysteries of existence, offering comfort and a profound understanding of our life missions." He also stated that there are secret experiments going on as we speak with small groups of people with special abilities able to tap into a, quote, mediated realm beyond our understanding. Continuing that these groups include individuals with abilities and giftedness in the realm. The purpose of these tests is to investigate the idea that our existence is not solely based on events, but rather a form of energy that continues beyond death, end quote. So yeah, a bit vague and esoteric, but intriguing. And oh fun, we may have a new deadly global virus coming our way. Now this one is pretty unsettling because he claimed to have predicted the 2020 virus. I don't have any evidence of him actually having made any statements about this before 2020 though, so who knows. He's just kind of recently getting recognition, so I don't even know if what he's said there is true. If it is though, then it would make this next prediction much more alarming. Apparently deadly viruses have been trapped in Antarctic ice for years, which will soon be unleashed from the South Pole and, quote, sweep the world, and the fight against this new virus will take longer than one can imagine. If this new virus gets unchecked, suffering, mental, and material damage will proliferate. Death and this virus will be known as the greatest Grim Reaper in history, end quote. Yeah, that's not ominous at all. He does stress, though, that these predictions aren't necessarily set in stone and that the future isn't set. We can change the course of history if we tackle these issues early on. Here's a much more uplifting prediction. Alien contact. Now sure, this may seem scary to some of you, but according to what Salomé is foreseeing, these aliens won't be setting out to cause us harm. So that's a relief. So what form will this alien contact take? Well, apparently it'll be done through, quote, encrypted signals intercepted by a network of telescopes. So Not quite the alien contact we're probably hoping for, where they actually land on Earth and then exit their big spacecraft to like a team of world delegates. They shake hands, pose for pictures, the world claps and cheers. But contact, it's still contact, and if this does turn out to be true, maybe we'll actually get a chance to catch a glimpse of these aliens in the very near future. I mentioned zombies earlier. Let's get to the zombies. I'll start by reading what Athos Salomé wrote himself. Many heads will be cut off. BLOOD and psychological torment will be used, leaving the population manipulated and living like zombies. The mental disorders will increase and mental outbreaks will occur at the time of pain and grief, unbalancing the human mind and triggering depression and death from taking one's own life. I'm paraphrasing there. Get ready, because the number can triple, and it's not just the virus that will kill. End quote. So we also have mention of that deadly virus here as well. Seems like the foreboding mass mental torment thing may be connected to it. So does this virus cause people to descend into a zombie-like state? Or does the effect the virus has on the world cause people to get so full of mental anguish that they fall into a zombie-like state? Well, get amped, because I guess we're about to find out. I don't know. I take all this stuff with many grains of salt. And again, even as Salomé stated himself, it's all metaphorical language. Who knows what this really means, if anything. AI comes into the picture once again in 2024. Seems like artificial intelligence is gonna make some real technological strides. Not only will it help assist in talking to the dead, but it'll also become entirely self-aware, according to the modern-day Brazilian Nostradamus. Now, some folks have actually looked at this foretelling of awakened AI as possibly a good thing, with AI taking away lots of menial tasks that currently take up a big part of our time, freeing us up to think about bigger things, leading us down more spiritually filling paths. And that's definitely a nice way of looking at things, but there's always that other potential for a robot rebellion. I mean, what use would self-learning, self-aware machines have with archaic, lizard-brained, dumb humans, after all, right? The living Nostradamus claims that these awakened artificial intelligence systems will also form an entirely new language of their own, incomprehensible to humans, leaving us totally in the dark about what they begin to discuss and plan. He warns that AI equipped with, quote, self-improvement capabilities and covert communication channels could lead machines and us down a very perilous path. Russia and China are also not going to be getting along very well in the very near future, according to Athos. Apparently, all-out war will break out, and it's all going to stem from an event in the South China Sea or a major cyber attack. This war will eventually involve other world powers, potentially leading to a third world war. At any rate, though, he warns that the conflict will take a big toll on the global economy, stating, quote, any conflicts could have a profound impact, leading to recessions in several major economies. So I can't help but wonder if this cyber attack might have something to do with the advanced AI. Maybe it hacks into something and kicks off the whole conflict just so we wipe ourselves out. Well, at least it looks like there's an afterlife with the whole being able to communicate with the dead, though, through AI, so that's positive. If we do die, we'll still be around somewhere. But apparently it's not just zombies, advanced AI, or humans that are going to be causing major problems for humans, but nature as well. Everything is just going to be teeing off on us over the next few years, apparently. Everyone just loves ganging up. Yeah, nature's going to be joining in on this global scaled bully party in the form of intense natural disasters, as if that's what we need. Athos foresees the United States battling water and fire with hurricanes and tropical storms leading to massive floods near the Gulf of Mexico and wildfires erupting in parts of California, Oregon, and Washington. And the Middle East and Africa won't be so lucky either, with deadly disasters hitting South Sudan, Somalia, and Yemen. Next up we have the asteroid. Now this one would actually be pretty cool, potentially. No, the prophecy is not talking about a massive asteroid smashing into Earth and destroying us. Already plenty of threats coming our way without space rocks getting involved too. No, apparently an asteroid will safely land on Earth, but not just any asteroid. This one will be rich in minerals. What will these minerals consist of? No clue, but according to the supposed seer, governments across the world will be racing to get their hands on the asteroid and its precious minerals, which will then lead to a space race revival. Now, this can either be very exciting or go very badly. I mean, various world powers all racing to get their hands on something? That sounds like the type of MacGuffin you see in all kinds of epic fantasy comic book type stories. And MacGuffins cause conflict in your story, not resolution. Could this precious asteroid be the catalyst for World War III, or could it lead to a more positive change in the world? Or is there no asteroid and it's all just complete nonsense? Comments down below. And finally, let's discuss Athos Salomé's prediction that 2024 will be a transformative time. I guess this kind of encapsulates a lot of the stuff I've already discussed, and that paints this transformation in a pretty negative light overall, but this time of change could also be pointing to a good thing. Maybe if humanity can come together and overcome these challenges, or even avoid them altogether, we'll be on a path to a more enriching, enlightened, happier life. Maybe we can actually move forward in big, significant ways. Communicating with extraterrestrial life certainly points to this possibility, and a new space race also sounds pretty promising. Or of course, humanity could transform from existing to fading into extinction. That's always a possibility too.
Number 10. What even is a multiverse? I think a good place to start with this list is with something I can actually explain. When the universe first came into being during the Big Bang, it was followed by a massive infinite expansion, which we can prove as we can see it happening. When we look out into the universe, what we see is the past as the light makes its way to us. So if we look out, say, 5 light years into space, what we see will be 5 years in the past over there. Astronomers with our modern technology are able to see out to a distance of about 42 billion light years into the universe, seeing events in places of space as they happened 42 billion years in the past. But we have no reason to believe the universe doesn't go further and infinitely. As the expansion continues infinitely with no stop, then things are bound to repeat themselves. Events will occur in the exact same form or fashion as they have before, like the formation of the Earth in a galaxy that is basically the same as ours. Life would occur in the same way, and decisions by those living beings would occur in the same way, leading to another you, or another me, or another us. But they would also occur in different ways as well. Every decision you make could be made a different way, and those infinitely repeated versions of you that exist would make those same or different decisions, leading to an infinite number of universes with planets just like this one, with infinite different variations of history. This makes a multiverse. Theoretically, if someone is to travel backwards in time, they would now be existing in one of these alternate versions of history, one of these infinite alternate worlds. Number 9. The Mandela Effect. The Mandela Effect, sometimes referred to as the Mandela Phenomenon, is an instance of false collective memory, a situation in which a large mass of people believes that an event occurred when it did not. It was named for a collected belief from a small group of people that Nelson Mandela had passed away in the 1980s in a South African prison, when he actually passed away in 2013. Some people even remembered seeing news coverage of his death as well as a speech by his widow. But the thing is, that was nowhere near the only instance of the Mandela Effect. One of the most well-known examples of the Mandela Effect is the collective memory of a movie called Shazam that starred the actor/comedian Sinbad in the 1990s, when actually no movie exists at all. While this could be false memories or your brain filling in gaps, another big theory for why this happens originates from quantum physics and relates to the idea that rather than one timeline of events, alternate realities or universes may be taking place and mixing with our timeline. This theory is suggesting that the groups of people having the same memories is because the timeline has been altered as we shift between these different realities. While we can't prove this theory right, we can't prove it wrong either, and so it has remained a popular answer for an interesting phenomenon. Number 8. Doppelgangers of the mind. Ooh. Autoscopic phenomena. It comes from autoscopy. In Greek, autos means self and scopio means looking at. The simplest form of an autoscopic phenomenon involves feeling the presence of someone next to you without actually seeing a double or anyone there. But the doppelganger effect takes the phenomenon a step further, so that a person may hallucinate that they are actually seeing and interacting with another version of themselves. But probably the most widely experienced and best known form of autoscopic phenomena is the out-of-body experience. Seeing yourself from the outside perspective. They are all technically hallucinations caused by malfunctions in brain mechanisms that root us in the here and now, but just like with the Mandela effect, some people believe these hallucinations can also be explained with both time travel and or the multiverse. For example, you wake up out of bed but you can still see yourself laying in bed fast asleep. Some believe this is caused by your brain blurring the lines between alternate universes, or that perhaps you traveled forward in time and are now looking back at an alternate timeline of you that is still laying in bed. Now that may sound wacky, but what about when there are actually two people in the world who look basically the same? Number 7, lookalikes. So, do you remember in my first point how I was explaining that over the course of the limitless expansion of space, things are bound to repeat themselves? Well, we kind of have a pretty good example of that on Earth. Over time and through history, and even sometimes at the same time, there will be people on Earth that look shockingly similar to one another. We have all seen the photos of celebrities being compared to old paintings of people from the past, or two people meeting on an airplane that look practically identical despite not being related at all. The chances of even one of us being created exactly how we are so small that every person alive is pretty much a miracle. That's a positive. So to find someone else who has been created in such a shockingly similar way to you is pretty insane. For some, this just shows that building blocks can repeat themselves within the human species at different points throughout time, and if we expand that out to our universe, it just makes sense that that same kind of thing happens with universes. Doppelganger universes making a multiverse. Number 6. Flying. A lot of parallel universe and time travel stories seem to do with flying, and I've got one such story for you here. And if you stick around for point number 1, there's another interesting event that I think you'd find pretty cool. So, back in 1935, when he was still a wing commander, Air Marshal Sir Victor Goddard was instructed to inspect an inactive airbase located in Drem, near Edinburgh, in Scotland. While flying over it, Sir Goddard found the airbase to be in a poor state, with cattle grazing on the grass that had overgrown. It was in complete rack shambles. Later on, while flying, he got into a bit of harsh weather, and to avoid an accident, Goddard decided to fly back to the airbase till the weather cleared out a bit. Now, as he approached the airbase, the rain oddly and very abruptly gave way to bright sunshine, but the real shock came when he also noticed that the airbase was now in mint condition and in use. He saw mechanics wearing blue overalls working on the yellow planes parked on the runway, and Sir Goddard failed to recognize any one of these planes in the base as any that were in use at this time. Instant renovation of the place couldn't have been possible, and the personnel weren't even wearing the khaki-colored uniforms that were the norm at that time. Also, the Air Force painted all their planes in silver, not yellow. The real kicker came 4 years later though. Europe was war-torn and he happened to visit Drem again, but this time he saw everything he saw 4 years ago in 1935. Same people in the same blue overalls servicing the same yellow planes, and he even found the plane that he couldn't recognize before, a Miles Magister. And you can figure out how that means multiverses or time travel. Number 4, the streets of Liverpool. There are way too many strange stories about the streets of Liverpool that seem almost unexplainable. Like visiting those streets is stepping into an alternate universe or an alternate time. But we're going to talk about one specific example. In 2011, a woman went to a mother care store to buy a gift for her sister. While checking out, her credit card was turned down and she went back home and complained to her mother. Then they both returned to the place where the store was, but there was no store. It was actually a bank. Now, either this woman is full of it and just didn't want to get her sister a gift, so she came up with some crazy story to explain that away, or, stick with me here, or she stepped into a multiversal vortex and traveled to an alternate time or universe where the store did exist, only to leave it back to our universe, which is where she told her mom and returned to the same location in our universe or timeline, but it was a bank. Or she just forgot where the store was, or she's just lying. I'm gonna let you guys decide, you figure it out. Number 3, deja vu. Deja vu is just one of those things that we struggle to describe. Sometimes an explanation of instances of real deja vu comes in the form of short mental time trips to the future. Now you could just say it is an emotional thing, some feeling of I have already experienced this, a close feeling of familiarity for a scene that's just happening. This could be caused by experiencing a similar event that has already happened in your past. You're immediately and maybe subconsciously entering pieces of knowledge about what will happen in the course of the next few seconds, minutes, or maybe even hours based on those things you experienced before, even even if they weren't particularly important or memorable. But what about when those details you fill in are impossible to derive from your present knowledge because you haven't experienced them before? So you just know the layout of a city, although you have never been there in your entire life. You know what the person near you will say or do in the next minutes, verbatim sentences for example, which they have not said before. If you ask a neurologist about this, or any human perceptual, mental, or emotional phenomenon, then they will always have an explanation, and it's almost always to do with biochemistry in the human brain. But that answer is boring, and I'm going to go out on a whim here with the other people on Reddit and say that it's you mentally or subconsciously traveling to the future or to another universe to pick up information and relay it back to your brain. Boom! Number 2! What happens when you die? There are many theories about what happens when you finally bite the bullet, when we hit the hay for good, when we pass away. One theory has to do with the multiverse, and if it deals with the multiverse, then it kind of deals with time. The parallel universe theory claims that when we die, we will be living in the same universe as we were before, just in a different portion of space and time. But if we are now in a different portion of space and time than when we died, we had to have traveled time and space to a point where we didn't make the decisions or didn't experience the exact set of events that led to our demise. Now this is probably the most far-fetched moment from today because it deals with something we 100% cannot prove. But given the idea of so many different religions and beliefs believing in things like a world after our lives, like heaven where everything goes right, or reincarnation after death where we start again without a memory of our previous lives, it feels as though moving to a different portion of space and time, or creating a new personal timeline when ours is destroyed, would somewhat explain those things in some ways. I don't know. The kicker is, we won't ever know for sure, so give me your theories down below. And finally, in at number 1, the plane experiment. Now, we're gonna end today with a real-world experiment of time that could actually prove something here. We are all traveling through time, all of us moving at 1 second per second. Cool. Or are we? According to Einstein's theory of relativity, the faster you travel, the slower you experience time. And this isn't really a theory anymore since some scientists have done some experiments to show that it's actually true. There was an experiment that used 2 clocks set to the exact same time. One clock stayed on Earth while the other flew in an airplane going in the same direction that Earth rotates. After the airplane flew around the world, scientists compared the 2 clocks. The clock on the fast-moving airplane was slightly behind the clock on the ground. So, the clock on the airplane was traveling slightly slower in time than 1 second per second. So, if that's the case, and this is where I go off the rails, if you were on that airplane when you arrived back on Earth, are you now technically in an alternate time, aka a parallel world? Or were you in an alternate timeline while flying in the plane? You were moving at a different speed of time, so you were experiencing a different time, although slightly. Am I completely pulling everything I've said today out of my backside? The answer is maybe.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have out-of-place artifacts. Imagine this. You're going about your day when you suddenly stumble upon an object that seems to defy the laws of time. It's an artifact that simply doesn't belong in this era. Perhaps it's a Roman coin you find mixed in with your pocket change, its ancient markings standing out starkly against the modern coins. Or maybe it's a smartphone you spot in the background of a 19th century painting, its sleek design contrasting sharply with the oil-lit surroundings. Even more startling, you might discover a dinosaur fossil bearing the unmistakable imprint of a human footprint. These are not just ordinary objects, they are out-of-place artifacts, or ooparts as they are known among the enthusiasts of temporal anomalies. These ooparts are more than just historical curiosities, they are physical evidence that you've been somewhere, or rather somewhen, else. They are tangible proof that you've slipped through the cracks of time, visiting eras far removed from your own. So the next time you find an object that seems a little out of place, take a closer look. It might just be a souvenir from your time travels, a memento of your journey through the ages. In our number 9 spot today, we have anachronistic knowledge. Imagine waking up one day with knowledge you cannot explain. You're suddenly fluent in ancient Sumerian, a language that has been dead for centuries. You're familiar with the intricate workings of a quantum computer, a technology that hasn't been invented yet. You know the outcome of tomorrow's headlines, the discoveries that will revolutionize our understanding of ancient cultures, the events that will shape the course of history. This isn't just a lucky guess or a sudden stroke of genius, this is detailed, specific knowledge, the kind of knowledge that comes from experience. It's as if you've lived through these events, learned these languages, used these technologies. It's as if your mind has traveled through time. This anachronistic knowledge, as it's known, could be a sign of time travel. portal. It suggests that your consciousness has somehow slipped the bonds of linear time, journeying into the past or the future. It's a tantalizing idea, one that challenges our understanding of time and consciousness. So, if you find yourself knowing things you shouldn't, consider this. You might be a time traveler, a voyager in the vast ocean of time. In our number 7 spot today, we have time-slipped locations. You take a wrong turn on a familiar road and find yourself in a place that seems to exist outside of time. The architecture is from a bygone era, the people are dressed in outdated fashion, and the technology is decades, if not centuries behind. It's as if you've stepped into a time capsule, a slice of the past preserved in the present. The air is thick with nostalgia, the sounds of the past echo around you. The clip-clop of horse-drawn carriages, the crackle of a gramophone, the chatter of people discussing events that, to you, are ancient history. You're a stranger in a strange land, an anachronism in a world that's not your own. And then, when you leave, you find that you can't return. The road that led you there has vanished, the landmarks are gone, and the map shows you only the familiar contours of the present. It's as if this place was a mirage, a dream, a bubble in the fabric of time. This is a time-slipped location, a pocket of the past or future that exists in the present. It's a sign that you've not just traveled in space, but in time. In our number 6 spot today, we have unexplained absences. One moment, you're sipping your morning coffee, and the next, you're staring at a sunset. Hours have passed in the blink of an eye, or perhaps you're at a party and suddenly it's the next day, or the next week, or even the next year. You've lost time. Not just a few forgettable minutes, but significant chunks of your life. These aren't just gaps in your memory, they're unexplained absences, periods of time that you've seemingly just skipped over. It's as if you've hit the fast forward button on your life, bypassing hours, days, or even years. You have no recollection of what happened during that time, no sense of having lived through those missing moments. At first, you might dismiss these episodes as blackouts, the result of stress or fatigue, but as they become more frequent and more pronounced, another explanation begins to take shape. Could these be time jumps? Could you be spontaneously leaping forward in time, living out your life in a non-linear fashion? It's a very concerning thought, but in a universe where time travel could be possible, it is a possibility that we just can't ignore. If you're losing time in this way, you might be a time traveler, skipping through the timeline like a stone across the water. In our number 5 spot today, we have phantom media. Okay, so picture this. You have a vivid memory of a movie you watched as a child. You can recall the plot, you can quote lines, even describe scenes in detail. But when you try to find it, there's no trace of it anywhere. It's not in any database, not on any streaming platform, not in any dusty corner of a video rental store. It's just as if the movie never existed. Or perhaps it's a song that's stuck in your head, a catchy tune from a band you used to love, but when you hum the melody to your friends, they just look at you blankly. There's no record of the song or the band anywhere. It's likely they've just been erased from history. This phenomenon, also known as the Mandela effect, is more than just faulty memory. It's a collective misremembering of events or facts named after the widespread false memory of Nelson Mandela's death in prison in the 1980s. But what if it's not just misremembering? What if it's a sign that you've experienced alternate timelines? That you've lived in a reality where these movies, songs, and TV shows do exist? It's a mind-bending possibility, but in a universe where time is not as linear as we think, it's a possibility that is definitely worth considering. In our number 4 spot today, we have historical doppelgangers. Imagine leafing through a dusty old book or scrolling through an online archive and coming across a portrait that stops you in your tracks. The person in this image isn't just familiar, they're identical to you. The same eyes, the same smile, the same birthmark on the cheek. It's as if you're looking at a mirror image of yourself, but the date on the portrait is from a century ago. Or perhaps it's a photograph from a newspaper clipping, a face in the crowd that bears an uncanny resemblance to your own. The same scar on the forehead, the same mismatched eyes, the same distinctive jawline. It's you, but the newspaper is dated 50 years in the future. These aren't just coincidences or cases of mistaken identity. These are historical doppelgangers, echoes of yourself in the annals of time. It's as if your past or future self has left a trace in history, a footprint in the sands of time. Could this be a sign of time travel? Have you in some inexplicable way left your mark on an era that you've never lived in? skin? It's a tantalizing thought, one that challenges our understanding of time and also identity. In our number 3 spot today, we have quantum entanglement. Imagine feeling a connection with someone that transcends the ordinary. It's not just empathy or intuition, it's a bond that defies the laws of physics. You share thoughts, emotions, even physical sensations, no matter how far apart you are. It's as if you're two halves of the same whole, two particles spinning in perfect synchrony. This is quantum entanglement, a phenomenon where two particles become so deeply linked that they affect each other instantaneously, regardless of the distance between them. It's one of the most mysterious and fascinating aspects of quantum physics, a testament to the interconnectedness of the universe. But what if this entanglement isn't limited to particles? What if it can occur between people? Between timelines? What if your deep, inexplicable connection with someone is a sign that your timelines are intertwined? Perhaps you've met in a different era, shared experiences in a different timeline. Perhaps your lives are entangled in the vast web of time, echoing each other across the stage. It's a mind-bending concept, but you know, in a universe where time travel could be possible, it's a possibility that we just can't ignore. If you're experiencing quantum entanglement, you might be a time traveler, your life a tapestry woven with the threads of time. In our number 2 spot today, we have time travel dreams. Imagine drifting off to sleep and finding yourself in a different era. You're not just dreaming, you were living in another time. You're walking down cobblestone streets, hearing the clamor of a medieval marketplace, feeling the rough texture of a toga against your skin. You're interacting with people, participating in events, even experiencing the emotions of the time. These aren't just ordinary dreams. They're very vivid, realistic, and immersive. You can smell the smoke from the blacksmith's forge, taste the sweetness of a Victorian tea cake, feel the adrenaline rush of a chariot race. You're not just a passive observer, you're an active participant in the tapestry of history. And when you wake up, the dream doesn't fade away like most dreams do. Instead, you're left with a lingering sense of displacement, as if you've just returned from a long journey. You feel a strange nostalgia for a time you've never lived in, a yearning for people you've never met. These time travel dreams could be more than just dreams. They could be memories, echoes of your past or future lives. They could be a sign that you've traveled through time and that your soul has journeyed through the ages. And finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have time-sensitive conditions. Imagine waking up one day and looking in the mirror to find an old man or woman staring back at you. Your skin is wrinkled, your hair is gray, and your body feels heavy with the weight of years. But just yesterday, you were young. This isn't just aging, this is rapid aging, a sudden leap forward in time. Or perhaps it's the opposite. You're stuck in time, your body refusing to age. Years, even decades pass by, but you remain the same. You're an eternal youth in a world that's constantly changing. Or maybe you're afflicted with a sleeping beauty syndrome, a condition where you sleep for years at a time. You could close your eyes for a night's rest and wake up to find that the world has moved on without you. These conditions could be medical mysteries, unexplained phenomena that baffle doctors and scientists, but they could also be side effects of time travel. They could be signs that your body is not just moving through space, but through time. So maybe if you're experiencing these time-sensitive health conditions, consider this. You might be a time traveler, your body bearing the physical toll of your temporal journey.